Hello everyone! We are on the latest Testulous patch branch thingy trying to do local hosted and see if this works because we're waiting for the official service to catch up with us. Anyways, Team 1, ANS in the blue trunks. We've got Jar, we've got Microsoft Edgelord, we got Joxa, and we got 7 is an odd number. Squaring off against them in the orange trunks, we've got Sir Poopit, we've got Sir Maximilian Archibald, we've got Jaspex, and we've got Star 1954. Also, because I can do this and Max can't stop me, I'm going to shout out Maximilian over here. Go check him out on Twitch as well. He's another Nebulous content creator and overall cool dude with a fantabulous mustache, lovely butler friend. So you should go follow him if you aren't already. If you're looking for finding these live, then you can follow me on twitch.tv/NekoboyBlue. Shameless chilling and all that as everyone good luck, has fun. We're on Honeycomb right now. 1,000 points to win, 3,000 points per player. That's 12,000 per team. So we will see how these people decide to take each other apart. Oh, okay, bud. Well, thanks to the Twitch redeems, we're now into Canuck mode, so this is going to be awfully Canadian content for the next 5 minutes or so. Stereotypical nonsense, as one would expect. Got a big sippy request as well, so I need everyone to take a drink of water with me. Is this going to be absolutely insufferable? Very well might be. We're seeing the ANS deploying heavily favoring that right side. OSP in turn doing a bit of their own right side favorite. We got the good old... I'd say kind of the NASCAR playstyle here is both teams going to try going around and doing their stuff at that. I'm an adult, nobody can tell me so. Yeah, Mom said it's my turn on the Twitch stream. I'm going to do what I want. Ooh, loving those dancing pikes. Thank you, Megan, for showing those off. We got some lovely little emotes here for the community side. NASCAR, it's like MechWarrior Online all over again. Yeah, you fools, you thought you were watching a Nebulous stream. This is a MechWarrior Online stream now. I'm going to change the category. You can't stop me. Alright, anyways, in all seriousness, we're just waiting for Max to hit that button. Just ask him, Max, ready? Actually, I won't bother backseeing him. He's probably doing his own thing, making sure Twitch is behaving and all that. There we go. He's got it now. Yep, we got a little bit of the old Rotato going in, so we'll go through these feats real fast and then take a look at what we've got in the battle space here to take each other apart with. Alright, looks like we got some, what was that, 100 mil liners? Very nice, very nice. Gonna see it through these fleets real fast. I guess because we're dropping on OSP side, we'll go to them first, and I'll try and get this done before the whole game gets on. Alright, so squaring off to start with, we've got Max over here. He's got himself T30 liners here, topsiders by the looks of it. Whole bunch of T20s and T30s on this. Very good against those light targets. Paired up with another T30 T20 liner. Interesting, so just maxing out that 100 mil. Very good against Strikecraft with that Flak Max. Accompanying it's going to be a little cheap T20 Capper Shuttle, cheap T20 Capper Shuttle. These distributed across the map here. We got one going left side towards that E point, and then one going right side towards that D point. Looks like Cappers across all points there. Very nice. Sir Poopit coming in with the Monitor Quintet down here. Seeing T30s, C90s on, I'm betting all of these. Yep, just flicking through the fleet here. Looks like they got some Grazers as point defense. They got some Pavises. I think they had some Bastions in there as well, so... nice, just a little standard array there. These are Sun Drive with boosts in the back, so they do go decently quick. Just pretty decent overall build there from the old Poopit. Star coming in here with the, Carrier. Very nice, very nice. Seeing the little launch pads go up there as we're seeing some, what are those, Halberd skiffs getting off the deck. They're going to be doing some scouting. So, looks like just pretty standard, 3,000 points. Carrier. Not much to say about this thing. It's got a whole bunch of Sturgeons in it. It's got a bunch of Barracudas. Just going to be depending on what type of loadouts they'll end up going for. So pretty standard overall. Jaspex coming in here with a Journeyman light carrier. We're going to see this thing has some Barracudas and some other type of Barracudas. So probably different nose guns there. One Pike for scouting and a Halberd for a little bit of the kind of scouting duty as well with target designation. Very nice to see. And then leading the pack, they've got a Aceto here. Got some Auroras and stuff around it. Got that comms jammer on the back here. Does not have a bullseye by the looks of it. Does have some E-War jammers. Interesting check choices there. Internals check. Got that Whiplash and that Yard Drive there for good maneuverability. All right, let's take a look there as Max starts capping the first point. That's the OSP side. Let's see what the ANS brought against them. 7 is an odd number. Got a Levy out here, the head chef. All right, just pretty standard internals affair there. Gonna see some Tantos here. We got Fork and Knife. Very nice to see. Got a couple of Sundials going around the map and scouting. Interestingly, we see absolutely no bombers here, so definitely investing in the kind of air superiority style. Might do a little bit of fighter bomberage if they can win that. They've got a lot of planes to take out, so they'll have to worry about it. But to help with that, we're seeing a Sarissa and like the SDM brick here. Yep, we got a bunch of those SDMs in here, as well as another one of these across the top of the map. Loving the Spyglass tech into those. Good scouting here for air superiority brick devices. Jar coming in here with a bit of a cap fleet. We see a gun break with jammers and another gun break with jammers overwatching the A points. And I believe the first one was up kind of towards that C side, E side. All right, nice stuff there. A little bit of the initial skirmishes going off here. We see some missiles might be snaking towards the B point here. We'll just watch these quickly as we get through the rest of the fleets. Like I said, this game starts going up pretty quick, but You need to set up a Discord command. Yeah, I need to get that Discord exclamation thing set up. I'll work on that at some point. But anyways, Max is going to be taking some hits here. Small warhead or maybe a bad angle. Minimal damage there. Very surprising, actually. Anyways, what was the rest of the forces? We saw Jar coming in here with a pair of Corvettes. One has gun. The other is gun, defender, blanket. This is Chatbox and defender. Nice little Corvette hunter pair there. You can see these are across the top of the map. Then down below the map, we're going to see another pair of them going along here. Third pair is going to be one soloing onto the E point and one soloing onto D point, and then they've got their friends lurking behind and on the A points there respectively. Obligatory D point capper there going off. Oh, thank you for gifting that sub, Captain Promotable. Very kind of you. Anyways, who is firing missiles? Let's find out. Somebody's been chucking these cowbells out here. We see Max has lost a shuttle on the D point here, but in turn Jar is getting bled out pretty badly as well on D side. C capper is denied here as Jar sends out those Corvettes, and then E point as well. The kind of minimal investment there is going to get seen off by the ANS's superior forces in this situation. They've levered more tonnage. That said, though, tonnage is definitely going to say something as a whole bunch of 100 mil goes off. More of these missiles here finding their way into Smog. Sudsy does take a hit to the Citadel mag, which is not what you want to be seeing. This thing is going to be not having a good time. Cannot shoot his guns anymore, I believe. Yep, there you go, missing ammunition. All right, anyways, what was the rest of the fleets there before we get too silly? We have a battleship coming in from Jaxa. Got size 3 hybrid backpack here. We got 450 guns on the front. All right, that's Canuck mode worn off as well. We're back to regular levels of Canadianisms. Double Dragonfly, double whip. Interesting, no Raider at all, but just a bunch of supportive modules here. Citadel in the nose, make this thing tanky. Got some gun plotting center, keep those guns accurate. Double gun plot like you want to see on a battleship. Is this quad track correlated? No, it's just spyglass. Interesting, so... It's got a little accompanying picket device here, just a bunch of Stonewall and Defender. Nice stuff. Edgelord back here coming in with a Yub Brick as one of their support assets. Gonna just see this thing has got a bunch of those missiles we saw earlier. So cool stuff there from Edge. And then running a Frontline 450 Axford here. Got itself jammers on the back, Stonewalls around the place, Defenders as well. Pretty good affairs. Dragonfly Whiplash drive setup on that. All right, let's take a look at how the battle space is developing. So... ANS has secured themselves a 3 cap. They're seeing off Jar's various assets here. They attempted to push onto the D point, and OSP is just going to say, nuh-uh, we are committing to this side, face our front line, and seeing them off like that. In turn, though, Max got taxed on quite a few of their little cheapo shuttles. That said, these shuttles are incredibly cheap, so they can afford to get rid of them. Still, though, OSP fairly light on actual capper assets. Want to preserve some of your shuttles to get there in the late game. Just that way you have something more mobile than, say, your carriers or your monitors or SLOs. Fast movers are very valuable to preserve, so... Seeing the OSP develop that D side, they're going to handily take that cap. The question is then, where do they go afterwards? They've got like 6,000 points worth of stuff over here, frontline beef, that is ready to be levered towards the middle of the map. They're just going to need to decide how they do that. Edge occupies the top slot here in the kind of C point area, and we're going to see the battleship moving over here to engage the enemy front line. Going to start pointing its nose that way and barking with its 450 shots now. There we go. Lovely cinematic shot as it squares off against the Pentabrick. Bad track quality by the looks of it, as those shots were all over the place. They're probably trying to fire on a spyglass without a lock. Still, once they get on target, they can start leveraging a lot of very accurate firepower. All right, anyways, let's see. Just playing catch up on chat here. Let's see. Set up Discord command. Yep, I still need to get those commands. Talked about that. Sped executing and greeting creatures of sloth. Hee. Let's see. Hoping OSP bombers do their job. Yep, it's going to be a case of do the OSP bombers establish some of your air superiority. We see 7 is an odd number coming out with Arbiter Flight here. Mixed bag of coil guns and the 20 mil. So just putting all these together into one group here. You can see them doing takeoffs in groups of 6. We've also got a couple of flights around here. Just looks like these are a group of 4 because they launched their 2 sundials, I think it was, and then they're just kind of keeping around. I think they lost one of their sundials, as I believe they launched 2 of them, and I only see 1 on the board now, so that was a pickoff that might have happened at some point or other. In turn, Star also developing their air superiority wings. We see there's a bunch of Spearfish-equipped sturgeons over here, which could do a lot of damage against a big capital target. Once you get those sturgeons in groups of 4, they can get a bit of purchase through point defense. When you get them in a group of 8, that's when they really get scary and can bring a lot of firepower. Anyways, we're seeing Jar over here providing kind of picketing escort for Edge over here. The Namer Dumb is squaring off against its equivalent over here, the Chump of Viola. Just both of them kind of exchanging handshakes with their 450. We see there's some air support in the immediate vicinity as both sides will kind of tee off here. A couple more of these missiles getting the water testing off here, as we're just going to see if these are able to get through any of the point defense. There is Auroras and Flak nearby. I don't think these will find their way into anything. There we go. Yep, Auroras kick on and do their job. Don't want to be throwing hybrids away into the point defense screens of a SLO. It is very good at shooting down missiles. See an SDM baited out there from one of the patrol flights. All right, so let's take a look at the map situation right now as both teams kind of develop. We're seeing the OSPs kind of getting poked at here from multiple different angles. Edge throwing a couple missiles, trying to see what might be an opening, possibly let the carrier player go in for something. We'll see what, in turn, the OSP is doing is they've just kind of set themselves up here. They're extending a little bit, posturing to kind of go around for this longer push. See Poopit extending a little bit out here, further away than Max. Max kind of happy to sit on the D point for the moment and just hold it for the time until they get into position. I think one of those missiles actually finding its way home. Yep, decent damage there into the T-30s. Again, this is degrading the health bars ever so slightly, so you can get some missiles through here if you're careful about it. Just have to follow up with some gun on that. Spots you saw spam toast with saw are okay in general, pretty multi-purpose. Yeah, we're just talking like hypothetical builds there. I don't think we're seeing any saw spam toes in this game. We see some of them are equipped with these SDM-1 lunges, which is command, and that's a nice way of paying for kind of a immediate pop on an enemy ship. We're seeing a bunch of these are just kind of axe spam, some ARADs in there as a tech, other ones with wake. Nice to see 7 coming in with the kind of mixed complement of missiles in there. That is an option as well. We could see some of those refit if they want to go with some size 1 spam. I don't think that they have any size 1 spam, but that is an option for the S1 Bay on the Tanto. It can double kind of as fighter bomber, especially with the improved illuminator cones it has recently gotten. So nice to see that as a potential kind of like thing that could be taken on the ANS side. Build variety is always welcome. I love seeing people bring a little bit of different tech now and then just to see what they can put together. Anyways, there's going to be a capper here. Speaking of saw, we're going to see capper going onto the B point here. We're going to see some of these size 1 saw missiles being fired from ballista flight. A bunch of these probably going to get taken out by the combination of RPF and the defender. I believe that, yep. Okay, there we go. A couple of those do find their way home. As you see, still significant damage into the whiplash drive there. This thing is not going to be mobile for a bit. And those SGMs are going to say something, so yeah. Nice follow-up there as we saw the initial size 1 volley and then the size 2s coming in. I believe, was that also ballista flight? Yeah, that's the secondary one there. They had with a, it's just a saw secondary with a thermal primary. Interesting missiles. That is going to deny the B cap here, so nice to see people, again, mixing and matching, trying different stuff out. We see some of these Barracudas now run fighter bomber style, size 1s and size 2 combination there. Pretty cool stuff using the size 1s to knock out the power or defenses and then try and get those size 2s in. I like seeing that. That's cool tech. Again, people are on test server. They're experimenting, trying different stuff out. It's very refreshing to see. In turn, let's see, we got up top here Dragoon Flight, looking like they're trying to go towards Microsoft Edgelord. Juggler Flight baited off here towards a fighter furball. That's going to be the air patrol has been distracted. Now Juggler Flight going to have to quickly turn and burn if they realize the danger. Dragoon Flight does have a load of spearfish ready. Do they go after the Axford or do they try and take out this Corvette? They're going to have to make their decision here as they've just kind of flown onto the C point. They're taking some shots here. Okay, they're going to go after the Corvette. Juggler Flight's still a little out of position, but winning that fight handily. That's a lot of spearfish in a very dead Corvette, so they do get purchase on target. Still could have been worse if they had managed to hit Microsoft Edgelord here in the back. That would have been a lot of damage to a rather unprotected Axford at the moment. So they elect to go for the safer pick here and then pull back, knowing that Juggler Flight is in the vicinity and had taken a favorable engage there. Both sides just kind of poking away at each other here. We see the OSP trying to develop towards that A-point side now as Sir Poopit and Max running in tandem here. That's 6k worth of frontline squaring off against Juxa and the battleship. The battleship is taking some plasma fire. Not sure where the plasma is on these ships. Was it on Poopit? Okay, yeah, Poopit does have some of these with plasma. I must have missed that in the initial readouts. Which one of these is plasma? You're T-30. Okay, you're the plasma one. So yeah, 2 of these appear to be equipped with some plasma that will make it so that these shots can bite into the battleship's front armor, but it does take a while to degrade that. Battleship's quite tough from that front-facing arc, so holding back the enemy as they are right now. Max not able to do damage quite yet as the T-30s here, again, having that ammunition issue, getting that mag sniped early on by a lucky missile does mean that any lucky 450 shot will make that thing combat ineffective, so there's also not a lot of frontline on the ANS side. That is worth noting. Oop, big fighter furball kicking off here as we see Bolt Flight has engaged here, as well as Juggler deciding to get in on the action. Squaring off against some Barracudas here. We see those coil guns going off 20 mil as well. There we go. A couple of those Barracudas do get splashed here. Nice favorable engages being taken. Starting to see the ANS testing the waters here, seeing how close they can get. If they do get lured into range of that Ocello, it's going to be very bad as those 3-kilometer lasers are just going to carve through these Tantos. In the meantime, like, we're seeing the fighter development on this side of the map. We're seeing the frontline development over here. Both sides kind of squaring off in different engagement angles. There we go. Now we're starting to see Jaspex waking up, realizing the threat here and saying, hey, I've got an air defense device here. Get within 3 kilometers of me, buddy. Try me. So, talking about some of that, like, frontline stuff. Yeah, it might be a little bit light on frontline compared to, like, some of the heavier ANS comps. It's still a battleship and an Axford can hold the enemy back a decent little bit here. You can see some of those STMs fired off from Lancer Flight. Again, loving to see this variety. It's not just Flechette Gun Pod, everything anymore. We're seeing some intercept flights there, long-range missiles, very good at taking out that wing of Tantos. Bolt Flight in the back here suffered some heavy losses in one of their dogfights and is now having to kind of give ground as those STMs going out here. Go and show that you can get some very interesting kind of carrier mix and match. One of those STMs was shot down there, I believe, by Bolt Flight. Bolt Flight scoring off against Wasp here, which is going to see an immediate splash. I believe that was one of these Bodkins that just took that thing down. So you'll see some of these missiles fired off as well. These are getting danger close, especially with Lightning joining the fight here. We're going to see Whistler in turn as more and more fighter craft going into each other, just a developing furball on this side of the map. The frontline fight continues on the other side, though. We'll quickly flick over. Joka has unfortunately lost a little bit of the fronter, more fragile modules as that plasma has started to add up, as well as the C-90s biting into this thing. Still, Battleship from the front having a pretty good time doing some decent work there, holding back the enemy. Meanwhile, in the fighter game, looks like Whistler Flight trying to join this, although I think that they are, again, getting... Yep, there we go. They're getting baited into that point defense range. Do not want to be within 3 kilometers of this. This is a lovely forward air defense brick that you can kind of operate your fighter craft around. Bait the enemies into it. You can shoot down a bunch of their size 1 missiles or their fighter craft themselves. Whistler Flight, though, having a good time here, even against Lightning in that case, and just one... Well, they're using their superior fighter AI now, I believe, to pick 2v1 engagement. There we go. Having this guy getting locked on there, and then the last one lines up that coil gun shot. Nice to see that. Now going to try and pick off Hermit down here. So, again, Tantos, much better performance. Interesting kind of mixture of the various different craft here. Seeing some of these SDMs fired off from, I believe that was the carrier. It might have been a swing arm launcher, or it was Dagger Flight back here. I think it might have been Dagger Flight. Either way, Whistler going to have to give ground now as they're getting smacked by those SDMs. One of them does miss. The other one going to find his way home. These guys need to go home, refuel their coil gun ammunition, and then decide to call it quits for the day. Still, they've got incoming pursuing missiles here. Might be another splash. Ooh, narrow swing and a miss there. All right. So, as that whole kind of dogfight there is developed, both sides kind of looking to just posture here. We've got Jar lurking in the wings here with a bunch of Corvettes, trying to get themselves onto the backline, which has now moved itself over towards the D side. This is the 90-degree swing you sometimes see on maps like Honeycomb. Joxa in the front line, given it their all, is taking some damage now from that 100 mil, has started to add up, especially against the plasmid face here. Does not have the armor to bounce all of that anymore. Probably want to get your nose swung over a little bit. That way you can present to the unplasmid side here, which will have a little bit more armor bounce. Still, not the most damage being dealt to you overall. It is not insignificant, but compared to other lighter ships that would be suffering this kind of focused firepower from 6,000 points, the Battleship is doing a good job being that roadblock it loves to be, trying to provide all of the kind of advantages it can for as long as possible so that ANS is able to rotate over and get something done about this. Poopit's still looking pretty healthy on these monitors. We saw that the Battleship was giving a little 450 downrange. Max, in turn, taking it pretty badly on one of these. That Citadel Mag loved getting knocked out, and a bunch of these turrets also getting smacked. So 450 HE still very good at finding liners when they are exposed for a good long time like that. Going to also see some supportive fire here as Edge has moved downwards, starting to engage in this frontline fight for a good amount of time. Ideally, you would have something like some bombers or other assets to try and swing this frontline engagement, but as we saw, the ANS decided to go purely for their fighter style. You see how many more Tantos are here. Ooh, heavily bled on the Tanto count here. That's unfortunate, because that was one of the big advantages that the ANS did have, taking those favored fights initially early on, able to splash quite a few. Now the ANS is going to have a hard time defending themselves because all of these OSP carriers, and there is like a lot of carry over here. I'd say this thing's like half of a fleet's budget right there, so call that 1.5k, and this is a dedicated 3k. That is a lot of bomber you can get airborne and start doing strikes against capital craft on the front line like this, so ANS has to be a little bit careful. They do have a cap advantage as we are approaching the entry point into the third quarter of the match now. 438 points to 286 on the board. The Laviatar, how do you call this? The Laviatar? It's the lobby. That's what we're calling it. This is the big lobby. It's got its missile pack still on the back there. It's still holding on decently well. Is taking more damage than it probably wants to be. I believe this thing has double CICs, right? Yeah, it's got the Citadel and the Reinforce there. Here we go. A couple of those missiles trying to swing here. Like we mentioned, some of the other support assets is Edge running a missile brick here. Able to try and hopefully swing through this, but still Grazer's very good point defense there, so yeah. OSP use SDM2 to great effect on the recruiters. Yep, again, as we see, SDMs are generally just effective when they can land on a craft. If craft are not engaged and they're able to shoot down those SDMs, that's an effective defense. But once you get into a dogfight like that and can provide that kind of like secondary flight coming in with SDM support, or put that on something like tugs or frigates, that can be pretty big. Speaking of pretty big, we're seeing one of these little gun bricks back here is finding its way onto one of the OSP's carriers. Not much effect on target quite yet, but that is still some HE rounds you do not want to be taking into your carriers, as this thing has only 3 teams and 2 restores. A bunch of Barracuda is going to be fielded in turn to try and see this thing off, but I don't believe... No, actually, these are HE-shaped. Okay, so they do have the ability to do a quick bombing run. Cobra Flight going to be committing on target now, using those faster faster size ones here to try and get through point defense while these S2s fire off. Illuminators should kick on here momentarily. We'll see this bombing run go off. That's a very nice tech there, making these size ones and size 2s. Kind of cool seeing that on Barracudas. Little bit of effect on target, but not nearly enough to see this thing off, as the carrier is still under threat right now and taking some damage to the bulk mag. That's going to be big if that thing gets knocked. All right. In the meantime, though, we see a couple of air patrols kind of going around. Jaspec's hanging out back here, trying to use 450 against lighter corvettes. Not really what you want to be doing. In turn, on the front line, we're going to see some Spearfish rockets fired off here, trying to find purchase into the battleship, and they do. Good chunk of damage as these guns are all redded out in the front. One of the magazines is redded as well. Still, battleship continues to truck on like a hero, holding back the OSP's advance, and Poopit is starting to feel it now on one of these monitors. Both T-30 cannons and the CIC suffering heavy damage there. OSP trying to find what they can, and they do manage to locate one of these sort of Sarissa air defense bricks up top, so this thing will go the way of the Dodo pretty shortly, as those... They're currently firing AP rounds. They're probably kitted to engage the battleship, but still AP rounds are going to do pretty good damage here. Not quite enough to kill this thing, but definitely making it think twice. Once they load HE, that will be a very dead brick, so good pick off there, depleting more of 7's various assets. Here come some of these big missiles. All right, HECP is out. Thunderstruck missiles. We see EO and ACT. Now a bit of the point defense has been degraded. How good are these things going to be? Bad angle, unfortunately, on that one as it finds itself into a weird approach angle, but I believe that it hit another one, right? Was it you? I think one of those found purchase, at least, besides the one that we saw. Still, though, some decent damage. Sundrive gets immobilized for a brief second, and we're going to see, once again, Edgelord over here holding on to the front line as they can while the battleship repairs itself. Not going to be invulnerable here as Axfords. Again, they can take some significant damage over time from these C-90s. Still, though, the battleship refused to give up the ghost. It has repaired its topside turrets. It's starting to bark its guns, and these kind of like, I don't know, what do we even call this? Like, these OSP-like frontline devices just having a bad time trying to punch through all of that heavy armor. They need their support from their bomber wings. Bombers occupied in the backline here, trying to free up their carriers, as we saw Jar doing a good job sandbagging them for effectiveness there. Again, ANS holding a 3-cap advantage for the moment. They just need to preserve their lead long enough that they can get to that 1,000-point marker as we are into the third quarter of the game now. Max got all of their shuttles taxed at the early part of the game, so OSP really needs to lever their advantage in the front line here, trying to get as much as a advantage there as they can, deplete the enemy front line, and hopefully just secure themselves that 3rd cap so that they can really try and push for that win. In turn, though, ANS refusing to give up the ghost. The battleship does have time now to get down and repair. 15 teams, no more damage needing to be restored. Unfortunately, they are out of restores, which is a downside. That said, I believe that the battleship has definitely gotten its worth holding back the enemy aggression for so long. Couple more missiles being sent out around, some STMs fired off here from one of those zoning bricks. Nice to see this as well. Like I said, when you get a fighter craft engagement going like a furball, that's when these STMs from the offset are so powerful, as they're able to sweep into craft that are not able to defend themselves, occupied by dogfighting other fighter craft, and then they get smacked by the combination of Sarissas and STMs. Love seeing these little zoning bricks being brought along, very akin to Task Force Maple. I'm a big fan of it, I'm not gonna lie. I really like the 2K levy and then the associated zoning assets. It feels quite good. Yeah. Large DCs on the battleship in a bit of a weird spot. Yeah, this is actually a fairly safe spot, all things considered. It's just that it suffered a bunch of plasma damage to the front, so that ended up getting popped. Still, overall, not a bad loadout. Maybe could tuck some of those like restores into one of these back slots here where you have your central or workshop, shuffle things around. I'm not the best battleship player, so I can't really comment on all the exact specifics of where you might want to put some of your things, but still, the battleship does feel like it is keeping itself alive and having a good time with it. See 7 losing one of their gun frigates, not gun frigates, their air defense frigates over there. Some more SDMs going off here. Again, ANS, although they only have like 10 fighter craft left on the board, they are making the OSP work for it, constantly trying to engage them, making them have to think twice about where they position their stuff. More of the OSP time is being spent trying to do air defense duty. See a bunch of those perched rockets now finding their way into the ship. While it does start a crit, it does not start a kill, as the ship is able to soak these pretty well across the reactor and whiplash drive. 450 might say something about that, though, if the ship is dinged. That could see these things getting knocked out. Still, though, not the kills they were exactly looking for like you would see on Live Branch. Spectre Flight creating opportunities down here, has to watch out for these SDMs coming their way. Let's see if they engage or not. I don't think they have the fire orders to. Oop, these go after Chaff there, as these are just Act Hodge. All right, so good deflection there in turn. Bunch more of these Thunderstruck missiles looking into hitting Poopit here. Poopit still does have a bunch of grazers in this fleet, so we'll see some of these are peppered away at by flak rounds there, and then the grazers should pop 1 and 2. I don't know if these are hardened skin or not, so we'll find out. Whee! Swing and a miss. What the heck happened there? Is there a Dazzler in here somewhere? That was odd. That might be an issue with the stage distance and the terminal maneuver chosen. That can occasionally cause some wonkiness like that. Yeah, Heck Piece sometimes is a little quirky if you don't set your stage ranges right or set your terminal maneuvers, because it likes to wimp. It kind of like wicks a bit to the side and then gets confused. I don't think there was a Dazzler there, but I could be wrong. Anyways, here comes the Tanto dogfighting against Gorgon over here. Nice to see some craft versus craft warfare. I'm so glad that both sides brought a carrier. I was really worried about that in the pregame lobby that neither were going to, but looks like they are indicating that they do want to do some testing game. Seeing some more of those size 1 and size 2 combination like fighter bomber flights here. Goblin tries to go after this. Unfortunately, the Illuminator going to be catching the chaff there. Still, enough of those do catch the Ingerud to knock it out there. Good pickups back there. Spectre Flight gonna get constantly taxed as there's unfortunately just more fighter craft here. Even Hermit over here, the Halberd, decided to kick in a little bit to this fight. So 7 unfortunately getting a bit bled on the air control assets. This is a risky play when you play so forwards like this, walking into the range of an Acello with its point defense, allowing the enemy fighter craft to get a better advantageous fight into you rather than taking a fight near some of your allied assets, such as those air defense bricks. So 7 going to get a little bit bled out there. I believe that they are down to just 4 of their fighters, and that's most of their effect in the game. 450 going to be constantly peppering Max over here. We're seeing more and more of these T-30s getting knocked out. A lot of restores on this. It's a complex, a storage, and then just, I believe, a shitload of lockers. Yeah, tons of reinforced lockers in these things, so Max refusing to give up the ghost there to just a bit of 450 fire. Still, Battleship is surviving here, and ANS rapidly closing, approaching that 4th quarter here, holding on to that 3-cap advantage as OSP is behind about 250 points now exactly. Wow, look at that. Yep, Shogun also pointing out a thing there. It is a escort carrier. It's designed for escorting. When you play the air defense style like that, you want to be trying to keep these guys clear for your capitals, allowing them to operate with impunity. That way they're not risking getting a flight of bombers airborne like Caltrop flight over here, for example, Spearfish. If you still have some air control, then you can intercept this flight and get very big value, as these could either be bombs, torpedoes, or rockets, and that is still valuable assets you want to deprive the OSP team from having. So need to be a little bit more careful about preserving your assets. I think 7 might be one of our newer players there, still doing a pretty good job there, showing off some of the air control you can lever. Seeing over here, unfortunately from, who's that? Yeah, Joxa having a rough go here as they're caught in the broadside Poopit, managing to survive through the better part of that storm, and now catching the Battleship. Still, Battleship, 14 damage control teams refusing to give it up, seeing some more of these missiles coming in here. Poopit going to be taking a couple hits here. Not the most damage, but enough to knock out some of the point defense, and also just inflict a couple of criticals here as we see those fires start up. So that will occupy the enemy for a bit. Edge is holding on here, although taking a bad engage, unfortunately, as they're caught in the broadside by the chump of Viola over there. Edge going to be losing their interrupt jammer and as well as a bunch of their front side stuff. 3H, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm just going to call you 3H. 3H, hee hee, something like that. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. Anyway, Spearfish, rockets, ahoy. A couple of these are sent off towards something over here. I believe those were onto the Battleship. Yeah, there we go. Now we're seeing these bombs getting fired off. Still active point defense grid on this thing. Going to be holding on here as well as it can. Has Defender in the back there. It had Auroras on the front slots? Question mark. I saw Aurora fire. Where did that come from? Aurora on the nose. Oh, that's an interesting little tech. You don't see that very often, but still is enough to see off some of those later bomb threats, so credit to Joxa for just refusing to give it up. Battleship zombieing for its life right now. OSP lacking some of the tools to really put this thing in the dirt right now as they tried to go through with the bomber flights. They tried going in with the mass 100mm guns, just having a rough time trying to take this thing out. More missiles being sent off now as Edge continues to try and contribute into this frontline fight, trying to take out everything they can. We're into that 4th quarter now as OSP is far behind. They are only at 530 to ANS at the 790. So this does go to show that while they might be taking a favorable engagement on the front line, they really need to get on a cap in soon. We're rapidly approaching that territory where they need to secure themselves a 4 cap. Hopefully not a 5 cap, as that would mean they would be very, very far behind. Joxa is now structure broken, so all of these shots that do get through, thanks to the plasmid surfaces, will start to properly bite and knock out components here. Still, Battleship is going to take a little bit to go down there and has occupied 2 fleets worth of attention for pretty much the entire match. You can see if Jar is able to get anything done, looking towards going towards that B point. Jaspex wisely sitting there Acello on it, saying, no, you are not allowed over here. Carriers providing overwatch towards that D side. ANS needs to hold on to that A cap here and the E cap, as we see Max had moved their way up to C cap. So as long as ANS can keep themselves at a cap advantage, they should win this. It's just, does OSP wake up and realize, oh shit, we're behind on points, and move themselves onto the A point? Should see Poopit hopefully move down there before too long, or send some other assets. Again, the lack of late game light capper assets does mean that the OSP is going to have to move some of their capitals or heavier fighter like these monitors onto it. Another one of those like rocket strikes going off here. We see a bunch of these R1 rockets going off, going to be finding their way to a point defense grid. This thing has stone walls and it's going to say nuh-uh to that strike. Does take a hit to the mag, which could have been very bad if it had redded out that magazine. Instead, going to see off most of that aggression. Also barking a couple of flak shots in turn saying, hey, Spectre Flight, come into my point defense range, see what happens. They're going to suffer a little bit of light damage across their flight leader there. Nice to see some of these picket bricks being quite good at their jobs, seeing off those lighter threats. Goblin Flight in the back, going to be trying to do a little bit here against Talon. They're still looking for anything they can do in this game as they're down to just this flight of fighters. Again, need to be playing a little bit more conservatively with your fighter craft on ANS side, knowing OSP can field a lot of stuff, kind of feel out how many fighter craft you think they have, make sure you're not taking sort of overextended engagements, try and play defensively around your capitals and other air defense devices. Oh, hello, rockets going off here. That is going to be the battleship finally getting the nail in the coffin as those rockets going to break basically everything. Kept alive with the Citadel and the big drive, but that just means they need to be hit by, I think it's a... Actually, I'm not even sure if OSP has anything that can proper break this. I guess only the Acello has enough damage to break that damage threshold, because these are quite high damage threshold. Like, this is 50, and this is like 70, so you need a 450 shot to break that. Can start a fuel line fire potentially, and then take it out that way, but still, Battleship has been seen off properly now. So, ANS, 850 points on the board. OSP is needing to get themselves that cap going. I think that unless they are, let's see. So OSP is still pretty close in this. If they get that 4th cap before ANS hits the 900 mark, they should have this. Question is, do they get on that point or not? A couple more of these missiles here as Edge just trying to do everything they can to deny this A-capper. Should see it going into this one here. All right, we're seeing a little bit of the weave action there. Yeah, so this is one of the downsides to running a terminal maneuver on your Heck piece. They can occasionally get a little bit wiggly and then end up going on a bad engagement angle. Still does take out the boosted reactor here. Sundrive is alive and well, though. Not the stem to stern engagement you might want to see from that. They're not close enough to A, even if they start moving now. They can get on the points, but it's going to be awfully close. Anyways, Goblin Flight finding their way into the back line here, going to be engaging a couple of these carriers as they start to try and get craft off the deck, soft-locking them for the immediate moment. They are running pretty low on ammo here. They've used up all their size ones. Coil Gun still has a couple of shots left. Funny Mill as well. We're seeing some air defense fighters getting up here. Duster Flight has got those 35mm gun pods. But those are the nose gun, actually. I think that might be the nose gun. Yeah, those are 35mm nose gun. There we go. Confirmation. They do also have some lunges, the cheap version, which is going to be the Axe Seeker. So, what happened to the BB? The BB took on 6,000 points for most of the game and then got hit by rockets and still refuses to give up the ghost because Citadel is kind of cool. So they're going to be occupied shooting that. Anyways, more air defense engagements going on as Lightning Flight comes over here to help out with Jaspex. So nice to see the OSP carriers working together. Oh, no reference exception. That's not real. Don't worry about it. Jar finding an opportunity here as these fights are engaged, creating opportunities there by 7. Very nice to see this thing getting onto the decap there. Is going to flip it, forcing something like this carrier to have to get in gear and then get onto that D point cap. That's going to be a 3 cap temporarily for the ANS team. Very nice flip over there as OSP was relying on getting that 4 cap advantage right now. 100 points or so to go for the ANS to win this one. They are losing a bit on that. Poopit realizing, oh shit, you guys got the cap there, and then it's going to be a flip over. They recognize they do not have time to get that back. That's going to be them calling in GG. Whew, heck of a game there as both sides kind of square off, exchanging in fisticuffs over here. The hero of a battleship. I wonder how much damage this thing is taking because it's still alive. You see Jaspex trying to knock this thing out using 450 AP rounds. You need to use HE to then actually deal enough damage to break these components because it just doesn't do enough with the AP otherwise. Maybe you can get the Citadel with it. So let's see, that's like 50 damage threshold, so 100 damage of the 450 AP minus 40%, that comes out to 60. So I guess that would be enough to break it, but still the drives and the thrusters here soak in a bunch of it. We'll see if this thing, there we go. Finally, that splash does actually go and knock out the Citadel. So took its sweet time though. Still, Jar with the heroic backcap showing why preserving your assets to the late game can matter so much. Having that Corvette advantage, never something you want to see. OSP side going very heavy on the carriers, not so heavy on the lighter cap ships. No tugs or other like lighter assets, just a bunch of these cheap T-20 cappers. That is going to decide the game pretty well here, as despite having like total fighter superiority in the skies right now, OSP sadly not able to cap with those fighter craft. They needed to split off some of their stuff and get onto the point sooner, as now ANS probably just going to collect on this here. Max desperately trying to go for the E point to do a last second upset. Can they get onto these caps in time or not? They might actually be able to lock them out here. We're going to see just how fast Max can get here. They also need to get that decap, and we're going to see Jaspex trying to go for it. They might make it. This is going to be very close. We'll see a couple more ticks here. Max pretty heavily wounded, but still does have that reinforced drive keeping them. These things are actually super tanky when I look at them now. Reinforced drive, Citadel CIC, complex, reinforced everything. Damn, this is a brick of a gun liner. All right. Can they defend C? That's another question, though. Do they have anything to take out the C cap? As Jar, just being the rat hero in this game, managed to find their way onto this back cap. ANS doing their job, holding back the enemy long enough for the cappers to get the advantage up. OSP getting a little bit too transfixed by focus firing down that battleship, holding out into the late game here as ANS was just able to survive long enough to collect on their cap victory. If this game was to more points, I think that the OSP would handily take it, but now we're seeing, again, this C capper here. If this thing gets the cap off, does Poop It have enough time to get on the point? I don't think so. That is going to now be a 3 cap, and it's still going to contribute those point ticks until they get here. Jara, you hero, you rat legend, well done. ANS loses their front line. We saw the Namer Dumb down here got blasted by, I believe it was a combination of the C-90s and the, not the battleship, the Ocello down here. Might have been a bomber flight as well that we had missed, but so ANS loses their front line, but does manage to work a cap advantage here, kind of playing OSP style. Interesting to see them getting onto the point here. Again, Jar, you hero, you mad lad with a Mark 62 and a dream, just contesting against this enemy carrier. Well done. Does take a shot there, but still holding onto it here for a moment, just enough to keep this thing contested. CIC will get fixed here in a little bit. Only one team, unfortunately, fixing that fire. That's sad, but still going to be trying to just delay this long enough. C point is held long enough. We're going to see a couple more ticks here. Poop It can get on the point here, but this is going to be so damn close that they just need to round out a little bit more and then secure their cap lead here. This might come down to like 998 points. We're going to see. D-cap does go through, so it's going to be a couple more ticks. 6 ticks here to win. Let's see, does Poop It get on point in time? It's going to be, yeah, because they've got, let's see, 14 points. That's actually 7 ticks. So they're going to get one more here. 6 ticks to go. Poop It going to be entering the point here. This is going to tie up like really, really close. Also seeing down here on the A point, Jar trying to move on here. Is this ship offensively capable? No, it is not. Jar, you mad lad, you legend, you rat of a cap player. I live for this. Well done, buddy. Going here for a heroic last second A cap. Missiles ahoy, trying to secure the D point here. Spearfish rockets being invested. This is what preserving your cap lead to the late game can do. You can be a little rat bastard like this, just finding yourself onto these points, constantly holding it. There you go. Yep. Poop It might have been able to save it on the C cap, but if that A cap goes through, we'll find out. Might just tie it up at 998 here at the last second, but I don't think they have anything to deny that A cap here. Gotta be real close. Maybe Poop It could get it in time, but yeah, just Jar, the hero, preserving their assets to the late game, being a little nuisance in the backfield here, not throwing away a bunch of their stuff for free. Poop It does, unfortunately, not make it to the C cap in time, as that's going to be ticking over just momentarily, and that'll be that. Let's see it. Yep, there you go. So very close in that still. Jar setting up even then for that last one. GG, well played. Holy shit, that is how you cap fleet. This is why you bring capper assets, people. They are incredibly good. Preserve them to the late game. Find out a way to get yourself a cap advantage. Scout, screen, secure with that stuff. It is so cool to see good cap play done. Woo! All right. That was a fascinating game. Okay, this is definitely going to make the YouTube uploads. So let's go through the little hero list here. We saw a couple of these Tantos. There's 24 of them in total, taking some, maybe not like the best fights they could, overextending a little bit there, but getting a bit of work done. We saw Jar just being a hero in the late game, ratting all of their little assets, preserving that. Joxa over here with the Laviatar, able to tank 25k damage and occupy 2 of the OSP's frontline fleets for a good while there. Very good stuff. Edge, in turn, also able to tank for a long enough time, getting that cap advantage there. There was like a 10-second margin. Yeah, that was really close. And with the back cap that Jar was setting up for on that A point there, nice stuff. Whew. Anyways, Jaspec's over here. Yep, the Ocello didn't get engaged the most, but did have very good effect at the fighter craft kind of combat there. Anything that walked into a roar range got shredded. Light carrier accompanying it here, kind of what you would expect for a light carrier, able to do some little like fighter bomber duty. Kind of cool to see that going through. Max, unfortunately, losing those shuttles, which was the only things the OSP had for their capper gameplay in the early game there. That meant that the ANS had an advantage for most of the game just with their lighter assets. Still, Max able to pull respectable numbers with those little reinforced bricks on the front line. Lycanthropic, thank you for the follow. Poop It in turn, exchanging fist fight on the front line there against that singular battleship. Again, this is the case where if you are losing, lose slowly. Making sure that battleship stayed along, that battleship stayed alive as long as it could, was able to hold back 6,000 points of OSP frontline, buy time for the other assets to find an advantage, and it won them the game. The final carrier here, Star, getting good effect with those bombers. Spearfish still very effective now that we've got that propulsion fixed for them. They are a little bit slower, so they're not nearly as strong as they are on live. Also more expensive, but yeah, good performance overall. Whew. All right. Take a 3-minute break, then another. Yippee! All right, yeah, that is a good fucking game. Anyways, I've been NekoboyBlue. This is going up on YouTube. You can check out my Twitch and stuff there if I get some more good games. Oh, there's Max raiding us. Yippee! Thank you, Max, for the end-off raid there. I was just finishing off this recording cast. We had to go on ad break in a minute, but thank you for coming by, Raiders. Hang out. We'll do some Nebulous, Nekoboy Nebulous nonsense in a bit then. I will catch you all in the next one after a 3-minute break or whenever I upload next. Until then, meow meow.